Hi, I'm Berit Stover.
I'm Beth Mund.
We're co-authors of the book Living Beyond Fear: Sacred Letters from the Afterlife. Beth and I were just talking about the animals, not just our pets, but the wildlife. And Beth, I was just sharing with you this morning too about a walk that I had in my neighborhood and seeing one of those beautiful turtles that has almost like golden hieroglyphics on its shell. And I noticed it was the middle of the road and was remarking to another woman who's passing by that we needed to move it to water and get it out of the road. And then I realized that it must have been, or part of it was run over. But I lifted it up and took it down to a creek and put it there. So I'm not sure if it survived or not. But I'm just so much more aware in my neighborhood in New Jersey of even more wildlife. I had actually a huge mother bear and I think a teenage baby in my enclosed fenced area the other week, which was remarkable. I've seen them in the neighborhood occasionally, but never in my backyard. And they spent like 5 hours. The mother was napping and the baby was just on a tree. But I'm just so much more aware of the animals. And I think with things being quieter and less traffic and just the stillness that we're seeing more animals in different cities and different towns in suburbs and so forth coming out and becoming more apparent to us.
Yeah, I have experienced that too. I actually had a raccoon who came up, and I have our bird seed. We have a bird feeder, and I have a bird seed in a container, and the raccoon actually flipped off the top of the container. It's heavy, and broke it off, so it didn't even screw in anymore to the back of the wood container. Got into the bird seed and dragged it like out of the box onto the deck and went at it. And so it was everywhere. And we didn't know that it was a raccoon at first. And then when we went back, we realized that the next night we watched and it was a raccoon. He was huge and he had his
well fed.
What?
He was well fed.
He was well fed way before me, but he knows exactly where to get the food. Of course, and then the squirrels and the chipmunks are all coming. But I've noticed that they're getting closer too. I mean, it was right next to our sliding glass door. It was right there. He was bold enough to come up there. And then there was a nest of baby birds that they were eggs first and then went to become baby birds that was in a bush right next to our house. And it was not up high in a tree. It was right there. And I ended up being very well aware of it and connecting. Of course, I wanted to talk today about the animals, but I also want to talk about our thoughts and how I don't understand how it happens, but how our thoughts can end up playing out in our environment. And it happens whether we have positive thoughts or negative thoughts. And it shows up, and the negative thoughts show up in our life, or just our old experiences show up in our life so we can heal it. And it's our thoughts. We've experienced this on the other side, where you think of something and things can appear. Our thoughts can become actual experiences in our environment or manifest in that way. And our animals are helping us to do this. And before I saw the baby birds, had been Mother's Day, and I was thinking about mothers and taking care of their young and all the different kind of mothers that there are out there. And there was this mother who was fiercely protective of her babies, and the nest had fallen out of the tree, and two of the babies had flown away, but one had hatched later from the egg, and then one was still there. So I was very observant of what the mother was doing, but I wanted to put the nest into at least a container to keep it safe and move it back under the bush. So while I was doing that, the mother was chirping like crazy. It was very protective, and I knew to stay away. And here it was, my thoughts all about Mother's Day and everything happening. And then right in front of me was playing out this mother who was very protective of what was going on with her baby birds. And that could be a silly example, but we were talking about how when you want to manifest abundance or when you want abundance to come into your life, we don't always get it. And it's because there's things in our unconscious that get played out, and things in our unconscious that prevent that from happening. And these animals and our other people and whatever else, our synchronicities are always playing out what's going on in our unconscious, ready to be healed so we can do the healing.
Yeah, it's a beautiful outpicturing of mirroring what's going on so much with what's in our thoughts and what's going on really with our situation, what we're our own personal experiences and things that are really being reflected in nature so beautifully in the wildlife. And we know connecting with animals, as you do, Beth, connecting and doing readings with animals, how much they are so intuitive and picking up so much information. And giving out so much love. Animals are so loving. They just are. And I think it's reminding us to, number one, just to be, rest in that awareness of just being. And as you said, to be also resting in the awareness of what are we consciously thinking? What are those thought forms that are dominating our minds, that are really guiding us? Because where we put our attention, our energy goes. Where we put our thoughts, our energy follows. And as you correctly said, Beth, that your energy, we're all creating, we're co-creating at every moment with every choice, whether we're conscious of it or subconscious, but we are co-creating, and every moment those thoughts are playing out. And it may be immediate that we may see it, or it may be in time. But the more that we're observant to things, like you were just saying about the baby birds and the thoughts, the more that we're observant of our own thoughts, we can actually see how things are being reflected in the world that's being outpictured around us, the physicality of the world. And it's really amazing. It's a beautiful reminder to us how promising it is that once we are connected to our thoughts, that we are actually able to open up new possibilities. Because when we can really call out what are the thoughts that we're having, what are those thought forms that are really actually creating something, we can identify it. Once we are able to see it or to call it out and so forth, then we can actually make changes, that we can maybe release something that is weighing us down, a thought that keeps playing out, that keeps us in a state of anxiousness, or not allowing it to kind of flow through to bring other things. Because we know we're energy. We're always in motion. Even if we don't feel it, we're always in motion. And to let that energy and that feeling go through us, to come to the next feeling, but to see what it is in that experience that we're bringing forward with our thoughts, with our consciousness. What is it that we are to learn? We're to be gentle with ourselves, non-judgmental, and just say, okay, I'm having this experience. I'm having this thought. What is it to teach me? What am I to learn from this? Because we're really here as these beautiful divine beings who are having these amazing experiences, all of it, right? What we consider the bad to the good, that all of it that is actually helping our souls to evolve.
Yeah, absolutely. But what I was thinking when you were talking is about those unconscious thoughts. Like, we're very aware of those thoughts that we have every day. We're too aware, right? We try and sit down in meditation, and those thoughts start to speed up, it seems like, and we start thinking about everything and anything. And so, but those are thoughts that we can start becoming aware of and changing those thoughts, because we have the ability to do that. But what about those unconscious thoughts? What about our subconscious that we're not aware of? And this is when we can look to our environment. We can look at our life and see, what is it that we're happy with? What is it that we look around and want something different or want to change? How do we bring the abundance into our life, whether it's an abundance of love, our relationships, our health, our jobs, whatever it is? How do we do that? Because our unconscious or subconscious is playing out all the time in our life. And we need to start with exactly what you're talking about, those positive thoughts, those thoughts we're aware of, And that will bring out the unconscious thoughts. So when we start, we could even start something as very simple as doing affirmations, to just start talking kindly to ourselves, and it will make the other feelings that we have in our subconscious, it'll make them start to bubble up. Like, if you start the process, if you ever did a mirror exercise where you look in the mirror and start talking kindly to yourself, it's very hard to do for so many of us. Those other thoughts come up. Well, look at this, and I don't like this, and we don't necessarily feel so good all the time. It brings those subconscious thoughts out so we can heal them. And then they're not playing out in our environment, because then they don't need to play out because they've been healed and released. So if we take a look at our environment and there's something that we're lacking, or maybe it's health, maybe it's a relationship that we want, start with the positive thoughts, affirming what we want, and then ask to be released from whatever unconscious patterns we've created, because we all create them. We have these unconscious patterns that stem way, way back before we ever knew we've created them. And then once we ask for those unconscious patterns to be released, our life will start to change, because we will start to heal, and we will start to see changes in our immediate world. But we have to start by asking, and then by doing some of those conscious exercises.
I think you're so right. I mean, there's so much to be said for affirmations, the I am, and you fill in what it is. But we are. I think the other thing is the gratitude. So when you are feeling kind of stuck, or are not even sure what path and what you're to do, is just to go into gratitude, even if without even defining what it is, but to go in with that emotion, that energy of gratitude, and trusting that you are always loved.
Yeah.
Trusting that you are always cared for. Trusting that things will be aligned and come into your path to carry you and sustain you, even in your darkest moments, but even to sustain you and celebrate with you in your joyful moments. And you and I know, Beth, from connecting with people on the other side, there is so much love. There's so much support, but it's for our asking. One thing, the cardinal rule that can never be broken, is to interfere with free choice. So unless we open ourselves with a prayer, or open ourselves with an intention to be filled with that wisdom, to be filled with that guidance, to be released from whatever it is, whether we can name it or not name it, but to move into our fullest, most abundant, most magnificent self, which is the truth of who we are.
Yeah.
And it's in that is just so joyful. And there's such a wonder. And I think it goes back when I think of, we were talking in the beginning about nature, and there's such wonder. We just look at these beautiful, the sunsets, or spring is sprung, and each flower. I was just walking yesterday, and the honeysuckle is out, and it's just magnificent. The scent and just the abundance of this honeysuckle, and just the wonder of it.
Yeah. Well, I just wanted, Deb said, commented, what you're feeling, you're healing.
Oh,
and we were talking about the thoughts that, yes, it brings out whatever is playing out in our environment. Mm-hmm. It's giving us a chance to heal, which means we need to feel whatever is in our unconscious. And our animals, oh my gosh, our pets do that every day for us. The wild animals do that as well, but our pets are doing that every day for us. When just being with my pet, I'm feeling so much. And what's interesting is, once you start to get onto all of this, how it's all helping us. Like what you had said, it's all helping us. The wild animals, what's playing out in an environment, what we're seeing out there, it's all helping us. And every day, and I wrote about this on Facebook today, my personal page, every day I'm just getting more and more downloads about how we're all here to learn. This is just a classroom, that this was created for us to be our classroom, all of us. And everyone who's in our life, whether it's our friends, our family, our coworkers, or our animals is here to help, is here to help us learn or grow, our soul to grow in a way that we're meant to grow. And so, how we learn is through asking these questions and looking at ourselves and looking at our environments and asking, why is my life like this? Or why is my environment like this? How did this happen? Whether it's we have everything we want or we don't have anything that we want. We can start by asking those questions. And then that gratitude piece, I agree with you, is so important. When I was thinking about this Earth School, I was just getting so much gratitude for everything, because our friends are helping us and our enemies are helping us. I hate to say the word enemies, but we feel that way a lot of times. Everyone is helping us. And they're helping to bring out what we spoke about, what's in our subconscious, what's in our unconscious. They're helping to bring that out, whether it's our president or whether it's our animal, our pet. They're helping to bring that out so we can heal, so we can feel, and then we can bring in the abundance. And having that gratitude helps us to open up to a bigger picture, right? We're grateful for the positives and the negatives. Everyone always goes to those negatives, but it's really having gratitude. And is it really a negative? When you look at your life, is it really something that you're lacking, whether it's, an ill health or say a relationship that you want? Is it really a negative, or are you in that situation for a reason? Are you having thoughts? Are your subconscious thoughts creating that? And is there a reason? Maybe you're here to heal from that and to teach others how to do that. There's a reason for everything, and asking those questions and having gratitude helps to bring out those feelings.
There's so many things that just came when you were talking. One is that we have choices. We bring things forward and we can choose how to respond. We can choose, it's in how we respond to things is shaped so much of how that situation goes forward, right? It really defines and it shapes, almost like you're molding a piece of pottery, the energy around a situation. So it's so much of our choice, because we're actually adding our energy to a situation. The other thing was, I was connecting with someone on the other side this morning, and they were sharing the same thing about, this is a school. We are here. We are only loved. We are always whole, always loved, but we are going through so many different experiences and different people coming across our paths to have that spiritual experience through the human body, and how to respond to it, and what is helping us to evolve. And they were saying that we're even in our stillness, even at every moment, that our souls are evolving, whether we're conscious of it or not. But the more conscious we can be of that, the more that we are actually able to tap into that unseen realm of possibilities and move it along in directions that are just full of wonder and that we can't even imagine. So the more that we can move into this gratitude, the more that we can move into a sense of consciousness, the more that we can see the oneness with one another, how the gratitude, but also the connection that we have with one another and with our environment and our animals, that all comes collectively, because we're all of the same substance. We are all created, by a all-loving energy, a God, a universe, a great spirit. There's something far bigger than ourselves.
And I just want to say, based on, before I forget that thought, sorry to interrupt you. We always bounce off of each other. We're all connected. You and I have so many instances where you had just said you were connecting with someone about in Earth School, here I am writing about it on Facebook. So like I always think, did you give that idea to me? Did I give that idea to you? Like we have that so many times. And I know there's other people out there who are going to be listening to this who have that with someone, or they're thinking of someone and someone calls. We are so connected. Or our animals, where we started out this conversation. Every time I am trying to do something on my computer, and whether I'm doing something for Facebook or channeling a sacred letter, when it's time for me to walk away, my beautiful lab, she'll come up to me and start barking and nudging me. And at first I didn't realize what she was doing, because I thought she needed to go out, but she would never need to go out. She would just stand there. And then I connected with her, which I'm starting to do more and more. And she's telling me, enough, walk away. Like it's done. Like I have a perfectionist piece of me. So I'm sitting there making sure everything is perfect. And she lets me know when it's time. So she is picking up on what's going on with me, helping me. And she's connected with me. And just having our pets in our house, or just seeing an animal outside, we're connected, or across the world. I mean, that always amazes me, how we're all connected, whether we don't have to be in the same room. We can do energy healing with someone who's all the way across the world.
Mm-hmm. It's so interesting. Two things. One, what I was getting this morning, connecting with this person being on the other side, they were sharing that eventually they were talking about language, how important language is to define us. This is where we are in human history. But what they were also saying is that eventually we are going to move to where it's our thoughts that we can just communicate. And we know when we're talking with people on the other side, it's not that it's like having conversations in our heads, but it's almost like, maybe not, I want to say mental telepathy, but it's that kind of, that it's sharing, it's a thought communication when we talk about receiving messages, full letters that are coming through automatic writing through you, and just having what I call like my conversations with these people. And but they were saying that where we are going eventually, in our evolution, in this human evolution, is more towards a thought base, because we're actually becoming much more sensitized to the other person who we think is outside of us, because we're each of us in our own body. We have this individual, but we're really much more that oneness than being separate. And it's when we move away from that feeling of separation that we go into that. But the other thing that you just reminded me of is that these animals, one of the thing that's just is a reminder for me, at least, is to looking at them, because they are tapping into all the nuances, the instinct, that sensing. And it reminds me of that, the tsunami that hit Indonesia, and how there were not a lot of animals that were lost, because before the tsunami hit Indonesia, all of those animals had moved to higher ground. They had already sensed, in their environment, that there was warning signs and things like that. And they had moved. And it's reminding us too, to just still ourselves and open up to what we don't normally always see, right?
We have that ability, that, that intuitive ability.
Observe that.
Yeah. It's just our minds that get in the way of that. And our thoughts, where we were talking about before, our thoughts start racing, and then that gets in the way very often of our intuitive abilities. And you reminded me also of, I had a Zoom call with an autistic boy. And and we're talking about our thoughts communicating and how we're all connected. And I was receiving, before I got on the call, I was receiving all these images and messages from him before I even got on the call with him. And he's a beautiful, high-level soul, an incredible soul. And I'm going to release that video on our YouTube channel, because I think it's just incredible, the information that came through him. And they're so misunderstood, the autistic children. But what he was sharing with me was so amazing about himself and his mother, and what his likes are and dislikes are. In ways, he's nonverbal. He cannot communicate. So we can once we if we can tap into those intuitive gifts that we all have, and we can quiet our mind, and we can open ourselves up, we can have those thoughts communicated back and forth, whether it's an animal. I mean, that's how we do it, whether it's an animal, whether it's a soul who's passed, or whether it's an autistic child. We're connecting in a way through our thoughts. So I think as we are wrapping up, I think that, want whatever we want in our life, to become aware of our thoughts, to talk about positive and compassionate affirmations towards ourselves, which will bring up that subconscious that is getting in the way of, not really, but it's getting in the way of what we want in our life, the abundance that we want, what we want to manifest. And that abundance will bring up the unconscious patterns. Well, the abundance will be a result of the unconscious patterns, and the unconscious patterns is what we want to heal. Mm-hmm. And once we just start feeling through that process, we're healing, and we can look to our life, our animals, our thoughts, everywhere that we're all connected, and we're all helping each other get to that point of healing and feeling.
Beautiful.
So I just want to see if you have anything to add.
I think it's beautiful what you just said. I think it's that limitlessness. We are limitless, and we are magnificent. And it is, tapping into that unseen realm, tapping into our own inner knowing.
Yeah. Thank you. Anything else you want to add? We have about a minute or two. And you're having your throat chakra. It's your throat chakra. You're healing something. I'm telling you, whenever I start coughing when I'm on our Zoom call that we do, it's always my throat. My voice is, my voice was stifled for so long emotionally, and when I start talking, I do start coughing. All right, so I will wrap it up so you can get a drink of water. So we're excited to everybody who's joined us or who are watching this on the replay. If you have any questions about it, just pop it in the box. You can connect with us on our website, thesacredletters.com. We'll put it up above the video. And join us on our Zoom calls for these conscious conversations every Monday night, where we can meet with you live and we can actually see each other, because all we see now are your comments. And we've been helping a lot of people with their soul guidance and just asking us questions about the other side or challenges they're having in our life. So we'll post that in our Facebook community page. And have the time's winding down, so have an awesome day, and check out the animals out there.
Thanks for joining us.
Thanks.